Good morning, folks. My name is David Theus, and welcome to yet another episode number 9, apparently, here on the Small Business Patriot. And this morning is Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, 9:08 real time for us. And it is March 19th, Saturday morning, for the Saturday morning coaching call. And if you're not familiar with what we do here, this is a chance for members of our organization to get together on a Saturday morning, no less. You can see that Katina is actually driving with her husband back from North Carolina. So we were able to use this technology efficiently and maximize our time together. But it's a chance for each one of us to come to this platform, if you will, and pose some questions to the coach, that's me. And the real benefit is, with it being maybe multiple people in the room like we have today, we've got some real experts in our organization that have been in the business for numerous years. I won't get into how long each one of us have done that, but we get a peer advisement, kind of a peer advisory activity that takes place. So I don't get to be the smartest guy in the room. There may be someone that's involved in a question or that has a solution better than I do. But we'll let the participants speak first, and then if I've got a thought to wrap up with, we'll do it. That's the format. And so what I want to do is in the pre-show, Peggy picked the right number, so she's going to go first. But if Peggy, if you'll, before you ask your question, please introduce yourself. Tell us briefly about your company, what you do, and who it is, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions, promotional products that I use in marketing programs for my clients. And this could be any size business, organization, club, or individuals. So we brand the merchandise and use it in a marketing program.
Okay, very good. All right. If you want to go ahead and offer up your question, we'll see if we can get started.
Sure. And let's say March 19 at 9:10 for our 9th episode. So that's the number.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a lottery number, probably.
There you go. There you go. So my question is about social media marketing, whether it be, Facebook or LinkedIn, either one. I've listened to people in the past, and some say, oh my gosh, you've got to schedule, 6 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever the case. And then I hear other people that will say, it's really not that urgent. You don't really need to be doing that. And I would like some input from others.
Okay, so let me just restate the question for the panel, if you will. Social media marketing, first of all, that's the topic. How often is it critical? What is your system, if you will? And how often, I guess, is the way to recap it. Katina, do you have anything you want to weigh in on that idea, or?
I guess the only thing I can really think of, I know that there are some statistics about how frequently you need to touch someone in order for them to recognize your brand or to recognize, what it is that you do. It's the rule, like 7 to 12 touches before someone, actually recognizes your product or whatever. So I think that you can, if you post every day, if your content is fresh, maybe, but I think a daily post might be overkill. But
Katina, hold that thought. Hope you're driving through a pickle there, I think. I think you were saying daily. Go ahead and recap real quick. It sounded like you got some cell.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just saying, daily, maybe if your content is really fresh, but I'm figuring it out myself right now, so I don't really know. I'm trying to hit something at least every other day, and I hope that I'm not watering it down or people aren't like, oh, gosh, it's her again. So I really am interested in Dave's take on it, too, so.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm going to have a disclaimer. I'm by no means an expert when it comes to advertising. But in the line of work I'm doing, I'm on it quite often, and I'm what I call a good student of watching, my activity, measuring results. We should all be doing that, by the way. setting expectations, putting things out there, measuring and seeing what kind of response we're getting and so forth. I remember a policies class that I took when I was studying finance at the University of Central Florida about 100 years ago. And part of this master's level class was advertising, obviously. And so, you know, Budweiser, the king of beers, Budweiser, advertises all the time, every day. And you would think, well, Budweiser, they don't need to advertise. Everybody knows what Budweiser is, but there's so much competition in the marketplace within the beer manufacturing, obviously, that even Budweiser has to have a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign to keep their product, forefront in the marketplace. And so I'm the way I take away from this is two things. You've heard me say, instead of a shotgun approach, like a duck hunter, I would rather be a surgeon with a scalpel. And so I think it's important, first of all, whichever platform that we're going to be using, and there's a myriad of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, each one of those platforms has a demographic that you can probably assess. There's the Facebook is what I call a bit more touchy-feely and warm fuzzies. Twitter is not a great, I don't think a great advertising tool. Someone may come back and blast me on that, but Twitter is I'm not going to talk about that right now. It's a whole different animal. But LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, depending on the marketplace that you're, swimming in, so to speak, there's some really good analytics that you can retrieve on each one of those platforms to see who your audience is. So you kind of have to work backwards. It's real important for you to start to understand who's your customer. That should be the number one question. Who is my customer? And really dive into who that person is. Is the person male or female? Most likely it's both, but what percentage is made up of females, for example? Which percentage is made up of males? The next question is, how old are they? What range in age are they? Are they professional? Are they business owners? All those demographic things, it's really important. If we don't know who our customer is, then it's really difficult to tailor an approach via advertising. Otherwise, it's just, wasting your time. And so I would encourage you to really get a true handle of who your customer is first. And that's going to do multiple things for you, not only just from an advertising standpoint, but it'll really give you an avenue that when you're out talking to people, you can quickly say, maybe this person is not my customer, or this person is. I want to explore that further. The next part of that, to answer your question, is I would dive into the analytics within those platforms and get some research about where your marketplace is. And then, okay, LinkedIn or Facebook is ideally, whichever it is, a good platform for me to be on. And then I think, like the Budweiser campaign, yeah, we got to advertise. It's going to be some sampling, putting things out there, measuring results. It seems to me that Facebook, again, is probably, some people have great results in Facebook advertising, depending on the product and the mix. This is a crazy way of not necessarily answering your question 100%, but the more I do this, the Facebook, unfortunately, is becoming a touchy-feely, warm, fuzzy. We get a lot of positive feedback from people, because they can comment and they can like and all that sort of stuff, but there's not a lot of transaction happening. There's not, in my experience anyway, there's not a lot of people opening their wallet and parting ways with it. And so LinkedIn, I'm starting to see a little bit more people opening the wallet and saying, let's do business. Now, you don't get all the warm fuzzies. You don't get all the accolades and what is the love language? Words of confirmation, is that the word? No, words of, what is that love language? One of the 5 love languages.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah. you don't get all that on LinkedIn like you would on Facebook. But at the end of the day, those words of affirmation are hard to put in your gas tank so you can travel back from North Carolina on your trip. So so we need some cash green to come in with our advertising results. So I don't know if that really answered your question. I think what I try to do is if you advertise one ad, a campaign doesn't make. You know, I think in the old days when I first got into advertising and started talking to people, the guy wanted to buy one ad in the newspaper. Well, you might as well just throw your money down the drain. It's got to be repetition. It does take people time to find stuff. Maybe if in the old days of reading the newspaper, maybe I only read the editorial and I skip right to the comics. And if your ad's on page 6, I never see it. So through repetition, over and over again, restating your message, the repetitiveness of it, you just got to have to test things in this social media platform to find out where is the number of times. I don't have a definitive answer for you. It's a work in progress. It's definitely got to be more than one. So I would, back to my famous 3s, 5s, and 7s. It's more than that. I'm trying to post something every day. In rotation. It's not about me blasting me all the time, but I'm discovering on Facebook and LinkedIn, the more presence I have, the more response, and people say, hey, wait a minute, there's something from Dave, and he typically has something good to say. I'd like to follow that. That's the best answer I've got so far. If someone else has a thought to add on to that, I'm welcome to hear that.
I have a question to add on to that. So when you're posting content, in your opinion, is it better to try to post something that's fresh and new, or for consistency purposes, kind of the same message? What's the school of thought on that?
Well, my belief is people are now, we're of this age where we're looking for the internet for our information. I don't know anyone that takes a newspaper anymore. There's a newspaper company here where we live that throws a paper in our driveway, and I pick it up because I don't want it, cast all over the yard, but it's still in the plastic bag. I don't know that I've actually opened one up. And so each of us are in such a pace that we are now looking for content, for information via the internet. And so I believe it's important for someone like your industry example, Katina, and for Peggy, that we post timeliness, timely information that can be not only informative to a customer and, educational, but because you're posting it, they're going to associate that information with you, that you are informed, educated, and professional. And so it's kind of what I call a tag along. If you can share that information and be the source of that information, people will always see your stuff in the future and say, wait a minute, she had a good article last time. I'm going to see what she has to say this time, even though you're not actually authoring the article. But it's kind of like the little newsletter we do for the Small Business Patriot newsletter. And by the way, there'll be a link in the bottom of this show notes where you can sign up. I'm not authoring all those articles, but I read them and find them to be interesting to me, and I think they're interesting to my customers, and I want to share that information because I know that my customers are so focused on the work that they're trying to get accomplished, they rarely have time to go hunt and peck for that information. So if each one of us can be a digest, if you will, for that type of, remember the Reader's Digest, it was like the best articles found in one little book. You didn't have to waste your time. Well, I kind of see myself as in that role. If I can be the person who sifts through all the trash and finds the best of the best articles of information, then hopefully over time, my readers and those who follow me will say, Dave's had some good information before. I'm going to click on that and see what he's got going on this time. That's my theme. That's what I'm trying to do, is build myself to be a trusted, valid resource.
So you're building a reputation on social media, and then people start to recognize you and value your input and come back to you.
That's the goal for me.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Katina, any thoughts?
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight. You know, as fast as we want it to happen, these relationships or these pieces of the puzzle it's a marathon. We're not running a sprint. It's definitely a marathon. And so I think I talk about this, how we develop our business and our organization. We're changing the way we do business one relationship at a time. Well, the definition of a relationship is not a, hi, my name's David, we just met, can we do business? No, it's over time. You've got to get to know me. I've got to get to know you. We're going to tell some stories. You're going to have some empathy, and you're going to start to trust me. And that usually, I don't know how long it takes, but it's that repetitiveness of seeing each other over and over and over again before, you know that cycle. Before you get the first pop of business, it could take weeks, months, sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I love how these questions seem definitive. And I hope I'm not just sounding like a windbag here, but I mean, there's more to it than not, it's, they're a little deeper than just the surface stuff. Okay. Thanks, Peggy. You always got great questions. I like that. Katina, you got any questions, or you want to critique your husband's driving today? Is he doing a good job? Hi, James.
He's doing a great job keeping me safe on the road. No, I really don't have any questions.
Okay.
I always want to tune in just to hear, what you have to say, and then it's always great to see Peggy. I hope you're feeling okay.
Better every day. It's tough, but I'm all good. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I don't have any questions. I've been really vacation minded this week, so I'm enjoying the fruits of my my short term small business ownership. I get to make my own schedule now, so woo.
Well, I'm going to take you out of your vacation mode for a minute, Katina, because you know what? We had the best meeting last week, you and I, and I find what you do so interesting and creative and clever. Would you touch on that again? Describe what you do.
Oh, well, thank you for asking that question on this recorded platform. That's fantastic. So Florida Funding Source, we help small business owners acquire funding. So a business that needs to apply for an SBA loan, they are always going to need a business plan. They're probably going to need projections. There's a lot of paperwork that goes with it. And for the most part, when someone needs a business loan, they reach out to a banker. The banker sends them a list of the documents that they need, and then a whole bunch of forms to be filled out. Florida Funding Source kind of fills in that gap. We step in and we complete all of the paperwork. We help them organize their finances in a way that helps them make a great first impression with the lender. We explain the process. We help them through everything. And then once they get their approval, we take a look at their term sheet and help them negotiate that final offer to make sure they're not paying any fees unnecessarily and that they're getting the absolute best deal for their particular situation. So that's what we do.
That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Anytime a business, especially the times we're in right now where they're scratching their heads trying to find every piece of gross profit they can find. Anytime time can be saved, and that's what you're a, I don't want to say a go-between, but you're an intermediary that allows for the professional to continue to do what he or she is good at, all while helping to secure this financing, which would take time out of that person, out of the marketplace. As a small business owner, we often wear multiple hats, and the ones we want to be wearing are the profitable hats. And so we need the financing, but that downtime of doing the hunting and pecking and the researching, that's really not profitable time. I mean, if I could transfer that information or transfer that request to a professional that knows best how to do it, even and to pay a fee, it's fine. It's money well spent. That's a home run. So that is an awesome service proposition, and obviously it works. So well done, Katina.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well, I don't have too much more to offer on that, on the topic of the advertising. I've had an interesting week. Let me make sure before I. Does anything else popped into someone else's mind?
Not right
No.
now.
Okay, and thank you, Peggy, for prompting Katina so well on that. So I appreciate that. I've had an interesting week. I've been on somewhat of a vacation myself, but unlike I don't do vacations very well, so I've had every day but Thursday was booked, and so I've got to meet all kinds of people this week. So, but the conversation about what's happening with small businesses has been right on the front of my lobe, my frontal lobe, I guess. And so I met a fellow from the small business SBDC. What does that stand for? Small Business
Development Center.
Development Center. I won't mention his name, but we had a nice conversation, and it was actually encouraging to speak with someone from a government agency who shared my belief in what's happening with small businesses. You know, I don't. This particular show is not the format to get into a political discussion or something like that, but we are really struggling. Our administration is not a big fan of small business, and I was speaking with a fellow on Friday at a local group, a small business group, and he's not in business; he's a non-for-profit, and he started to ask me what I do, and I started to share with him this angle of the Small Business Patriot and what it means. And I said, have you noticed when you drive through town, when you and I were younger, there used to be a small business owner on every street corner. And maybe your neighbors, if your parents weren't small business owners, they knew your next door neighbors or someone in your neighborhood that, oh, that's Mr. Smith. He owns the tire store down the street. Or that's Mr. Jones, and they own the pizza joint up around the corner. Well, if you start to look around your neighborhood, the Mr. Smith who owned the tire store is now a Discount Auto or a Tires Plus. Now, I don't want to denigrate those guys, but that small business owner has been purchased or run off when those people come to town, those large organizations. And by the way, Tires Plus, I'm going to get myself in trouble. If you don't know who Tires Plus is, owned by Bridgestone, which is owned by a Japanese tire manufacturer. And so when we do business with these local, quote unquote, local chains or national chains, I guess is what they really are, that money leaves our community, except for the people that are hired that get the hourly wage to work there, and goes back to Japan. Now, I'm not here to geopolitically pick on Japan. They're neighbors and allies of ours, obviously. But that is the story in a nutshell of what's happening to our small business economies, where large corporations either coming in and buying up the competition or just moving in and offering pricing that the small business person probably can't compete with, or at least not so much the pricing because there's deals to be made, but the ad dollars and the impact that our local folks don't have the money for. And so at this meeting on Friday, it was a small business community, if you will. The small business person, we're all individuals, and we don't have the collective bargaining as individuals that we do, that the large big box organizations do, the Walmarts, the Amazons, the Tires Plus, all those large chains they're funded, first of all, they're funded by shareholder financing. So they've got basically a financing system where it's crowdfunding, for lack of a better term. You and I, as shareholders of these companies, are crowdfunding their marketing campaigns and their expansion. where a small business owner he can't offer his company as public shares, at least not when he starts out. And so he or she has to either get financing from a local bank or some sort of funding organization, or they bootstrap and save the money themselves to finance their organization and start. And so I don't want to get into what's fair and not fair. My wife is a first proponent to tell me that life's not fair. And I agree. So I've almost tried to strike the word fair from my vocabulary, being somewhat of a competitive person myself. But the reality is this is what we're up against. Now, I'm all a capitalist. I'm a free market, free enterprise guy, and I have no problem with corporations making a ton of money and doing well. But when we get to the point where these corporations are so large and are really pushing us off the corner, off of Main Street as small business owners, there's a problem. Now, I was at another meeting on Wednesday where someone brought up the Sherman Antitrust Act, and that there's a law out there that says if these corporations, like Ma Bell was one of them, and some of the cable industry, where the federal government steps in and says, this is an antitrust issue, we should break these companies up. Well, that's all well and good as long as you have a DOJ, a Department of Justice, who's willing to take those cases up. And so to wrap this up, where we find ourselves now with this administration is they are in the mindset that developing these large relationships, these large corporations, is to their benefit, and squelching or stamping out the small business owner. And so our executive office, our executive branch, has to have the motivation to pick up the phone and call the Department of Justice and say, look, this is too big, go ahead and prosecute this, or not legislate, but prosecute against this within the Antitrust Act, or not. And this is what we're seeing. And so when I started to tell this fellow on Friday, that's what's going on, he's like, oh my God, I've never thought about it that way. You're right. I mean, how many local tire stores are owned by, I went to college with a guy, his father owned a local garage and tire store, very much like a Tires Plus, but he owned it. And that business, that money stayed in the community. His money went to the local bank. He hired, people, his kids to work there and other people in the neighborhood. And he spent money in the neighborhood when he sold tires and worked on your car. That money leaves. It goes back to Japan, except for the hourly wages that are here. So that's what we're up against. And so the only way that we as small business owners can fight this is we've got to join forces. We've got to become collectively connected, just like the large organizations. And so there's organizations out there. Well, Dave, there's the Chamber of Commerce, for example. Well, that's one of those organizations you can join and hopefully have some collectiveness about you. There are other organizations like what we do, and you can start to have some strength. But the point is, we have to join forces with like-minded people and start gaining some voice, because right now we don't have any. The big box stores have the checkbooks to write the contributions to the political groups. They carry a lot of weight when it comes to that type of avenue, and we have not put ourselves together in such a situation with any strength thus far to be able to fight for it. Anyway, a little bit of a soapbox for the ending of this call, but it's been a great week. I've enjoyed my little bit of a time doing something different this week, and I think I've gotten some good head knowledge and some putting my thoughts a little bit systematically together better. And again, this call, I thank you very much for you ladies participating today. Any final thoughts from either one of you before I close up?
I'm good. Just have a wonderful week.
Okay.
I
well,
would give you just one thought. You talked about chains, and that is a true statement. But also, I hope anyone who re-listens to this call recognizes the difference between a chain and a franchise, because franchises really are a small business. A person owns those. It's someone here in the community that, their money is going into it, and the things that you do may go back to a corporate entity, but a lot of it stays local as well. So really just making sure that you know the difference between a chain and a franchise, because I wouldn't want someone who is a franchise owner to be negatively impacted by that thought process because they are a local business.
Point taken. And the Walmarts of the world and the Amazons, those are the easiest ones to delineate, is what I'm talking about. But point taken. Obviously, a franchisee is a local person. I think where I get my haircut is a national chain, but it's a franchise, and that money stays right here in Clay County. So point taken. Okay. Well, all good input, guys. And I always love to see one last thought. Yesterday, we were on our Thursday afternoon Zoom call, and we had people coming in from different, none of us were in North Carolina yesterday, but people were, one gal was in St. Johns County, about a 45-minute drive away. Peggy's in St. Johns County this morning, in St. Augustine, Florida. Katina's somewhere between North Carolina and Florida, and I'm in Clay County, Florida. And so, you know, the magic of Zoom and the magic of technology is working for us. Each one of us didn't have to get in our car and drive 30 to 45 minutes or 4 hours to get somewhere to participate in this meeting. And with $4 plus gallon of gas, 30-minute travel time to at least 30 to 45-minute travel time to get somewhere and then to go back, we are challenging ourselves as small business owners to think a little bit more prudently and how we use our time and our finances. And I encourage each one of you out there to really start sharpening the pencils and thinking the same way. That's the only way we're going to survive this. We've got to get small and get lean. So hang in there, stay vigilant, as I like to say. Again, ladies, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday morning. James, thank you for being a good sport and a good good pilot, I should say. And I look forward to seeing you guys as the week progresses, and have a blessed week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Bye, Katina.
Bye-bye.